It is always more fun in hour 2 of Implicit Bias Radio. I'm your host, Kavan Bordelon, coming to you from the Mr. Lester's top secret podcast lair somewhere in downtown Lafayette, Louisiana. We got a great crew for you here in the Mr. Lester's TSPL this week. Sitting in the chair like mine, he is the consigliere, Chris Castro of Castro Law. At the bar, we have Lee Ritter, who we're still kind of working on his nickname. Nancy just doesn't quite fit. Sorry, Ritter, had to. And then, of course, there's Triple H, Hold Harmless Harmon. I know you don't like it, but it fits. It fits. It works.
I'm not going to argue anymore.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't have done you any good. He's from Dupree Carrier Godshaw, another great partner here on Implicit Bias Radio. We are sampling multiple weekly whiskeys. We are talking inauguration. We are talking mass. And when I mean mass pardons. It's like more pardons than every other president has ever issued combined. It's like over 7,500 pardons.
Multiple toe counts happening. You got to count on your toes.
Right.
Man, you got to count your toes. You got to count your wife's toes. You got to count your kids, cousins. Yeah. Even those big Catholic families here in southern Louisiana are going outside the family.
Don't have enough toes.
No, not enough toes to count all of those. So before we get into our Mr. Lester's whiskeys for the month of January, let's go ahead and finish out this conversation around mass pardons, inauguration, thoughts from the day, because as we're getting news in from this particular day, which, by the way, this episode recorded just a couple of hours after the inauguration of the 47th president, thoughts from the group on what we're seeing and other things that are happening.
There's good stuff happening. It
Be a little more general, if you will.
Well, I'm sorry. I kind of
That's
did.
like
I
weather
went,
outside.
I went Sam on you for a minute.
Yeah,
I'm
you
so
did.
Sorry.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
It feels good and it feels normal again. It feels good to have a president that can like speak a whole sentence and go from event to event and have vigor and energy, and somebody that I don't agree with everything this president says, but heck, he's out there and you feel like he could go toe-to-toe with Xi Jinping and Putin in the same room and walk out without a scratch, whereas the other guy might have come out on a gurney,
He probably went in on the guy.
He probably went in, right? To me, it feels...
It's sad, but it's true.
It feels like America again, and it feels like, even when Obama was in a room, let's think about it. He could go toe-to-toe. He could dance. He could talk. It was good. Billy Bob could do the same thing. We had somebody that was representing the country, and we could at least as citizens be proud and say, we may not agree with him, but we feel like they can hold down the sentence. They're not going to take a nap. We know they're them.
Right. I agree.
It seems like a return to normalcy is a big part of this conversation. Harmon?
Yeah, Billy Bob was George W. Bush. Is that who?
I was wondering who
Who's
he was
Billy
going
Bob?
after there.
That's who you dropped.
Our Arkansas president.
Okay.
Arkansas.
Got you. Bill.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense
Yeah.
now. Inauguration day, which I think was the question. Everything's going peacefully, which is what I was concerned about. I think a lot of people were really concerned about what's about to happen, and I still say maybe we're going to have a rough 2025. But as far as who's at the helm now, I'm going to sleep a little easier. That's my personal opinion. And everything I saw today, the speeches that we got to earlier, everything was. I liked everything that I heard. I do think he was sent there, and Trump knows he was sent there to do a particular job and get a few particular things done. And I like the focus. So
There's
far, so good.
a particular return to normalcy, and I love that call out, right? It just feels like the United States again. And it's not to say that we ever felt like we weren't, but there are certain logical things that we're like, we are living in some psychotic episode. And I don't mean like a psychotic episode like I mean like truly like a bad LSD trip. Not that I've ever had one, but it felt like we were, right? Things that we knew were supposed to be one way. Literally, you'd walk outside and you'd be like, that's a building. And somebody would say, no, that's a cat. And that actually got play. They're like, no, you can't say it's not a cat. No, it's a building. No, it's a cat. No, it's a building. Now you feel like it's a building again.
But don't you feel like too...
Twilight Zone
Yeah.
is what it was.
But
Yeah.
don't you feel like
and that's where I think that Biden was.
But don't you think
sadly for our country?
Yeah.
like Brian said though, he's got a mission, he's got a couple points. He's not running again. He's not going to run. So it's like he has 4 years. Let's get it done. He's not looking past that. He's looking to take care of business and make America something that he can be happy with when he leaves in 4 years and says, we got these things done. That's the way I feel.
So couple of things. Yeah, Brian, you go ahead and then I'll chime in.
I'm just saying, I think we're going to see a 2-year sprint. He's going to work on a 2-year time frame before the first midterm election. That's my opinion.
So one of the things that I found really funny, to me, it's an explanation of kind of what we meant by the Twilight Zone, like it feels like America again. You've got to love good old MSDNC. Rachel Maddow on the set tosses to a reporter who is at the border. Now, when we say things are happening quickly with this inauguration, within an hour or 2 hours of the inauguration being done, the El Paso border was locked down. Like there were already police in riot gear saying, if you are coming in, turn around and go back. I mean, that's how quick it happened. Why? Because automatically an emergency was declared at the border. Well, Rachel Maddow jumps on and says to the reporter who's there, does it feel like there's an emergency? And the guy says, no, it doesn't. Hold on a minute. It doesn't feel like there's an emergency because that's the way it's been for the last 4 years. And you think this is normal. That's not normal. Give it another 2 years. Let them lock it down and tell me if you think it feels different all of a sudden.
He just shut down the app. I mean, I'm just reading
the
entry
app is done.
It just shut down and everybody's freaking out. No, he just said, let's go back to normalcy.
So the border's one thing. The other big thing is I love the fact that we are talking about, do we really need an IRS that's pushing income tax in the United States? He has actually created an external revenue service, or he's announced that he's going to create one to go after all the countries that have been fleecing us and allowed to fleece us for decades. The simple fact that he is saying we are not going to roll over, close our eyes, and pretend like we like it in the middle of the night, that is a huge nod to the rest of the world that the free ride at the expense of the American taxpayer is over. It's done.
Yet Trump's the first president in our lives since World War II. The New World Order that came out of World War II was spearheaded by the United States, and I won't go into the particulars. It's above my pay grade.
There's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it. But that's the world. People our age,
Yeah.
Everybody in this room has grown up in a world led by the United States. Our Navy alone has safeguarded free trade throughout the world. It's been the most safe time to send commerce overseas than it has ever been in written history, and it's because of the strength of the United States Navy.
We're paying the check for everything.
Yep. So, and Trump's the first one to stand up in our lifetime and say, we need to rewrite this playbook. This isn't working for the United States anymore, and I'm glad he's in the negotiating room and not someone else.
This is why.
I would just suggest to you, I don't know that I don't know how much we want to rely on anybody else to pull that weight.
No, but I agree with
just
you. But
throw that out
here's the deal. What he recognized, and this is why having a businessman in the White House is so important, because he recognizes, wait a minute, we are providing a service to the world. You know what happens when you provide a service? You get compensated for it. You don't pay to provide a service to everyone else. They pay you to provide the service. And it's been the absolute opposite of that forever, as far as we have known. Now, he's kind of drawn the line and said, look, you want our Navy to police this? Fine, we'll police it, but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay at least your share of it, which is what he's told NATO. If you don't start contributing the right percentages of your national GDP, you're out. We're going to stop doing it. And you're on your own. And they know that if we stop, if we become completely isolationist, it is a problem for all of these other countries.
Well, they got a pretty good education over the last 2.5 years about it. What did you see in Trump's first term? The mainstream media, every one of Trump's detractors, what were they saying about him attacking allies? Was the term that was used. He's completely vindicated in that, as far as our NATO allies not paying their fair share and the dangers of attaching. This is speaking specifically to Germany, attaching your entire economy to is it liquid? No, it's natural gas coming from the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Trump was screaming to the high heaven as to why that was a bad idea, and he was vilified for it. So again, the little halftime break of his, in between his two terms is turned out to be an absolute godsend. Instead of starting his second term without controlling, I think it was either both houses of Congress, if I'm not mistaken. Now he goes into his final 4 years, at least for the first half, controlling both houses.
Yeah.
So
He's got majorities in both houses.
yeah,
And even more important, he's got the Supreme Court.
that's correct.
The Supreme Court is checkmate.
Okay, yes. So
Because the Supreme Court now, and look, whether you like Amy Coney Barrett or not, whether you like Gorsuch, the reality is they are strict constitutionalists, which means they've made Republicans unhappy, they've made Democrats unhappy, and basically what they've said is, this is what the Constitution says. You don't like it, change the Constitution.
So do we think he'll have another pick? He's got 4 years. I
he
mean,
may
what's
have-
the likelihood?
he-
Are we going
he
to
may have-
replace another
He
on the
may
right,
have,
or is
he
he
may
going to
have two. He may have two. He may have a right and a left.
Right.
So you
okay.
could be looking at a 7-2 constitutionalist split as opposed to a 6-3, 5-4, which you've got right now. I mean, it could be significant. And that's going to really lay a lot of things out as we kind of look forward to, not just because, to me, this is the comment was made to me about J.D. Vance today. Oh, if he plays his cards right, he'll be the next president. I said, no, Trump has to play his cards right for Vance to be the next president. That's what has to happen.
What happened after Grover Cleveland in his second go around? Who was the vice president and was he elected? I don't know. It's a good question. But this is going to be the only time in history that, or maybe the second time, where we have a vice president
Yes.
following a president who can't run again. Does he get elected or not? We'll look it up, I guess. But it's never going to happen. It's going to be an open primary essentially again.
Yeah.
And let's go.
Yep. Okay. So in hour two, we say it's always more fun. Why? It's because we've got more weekly whiskey. Now, the weekly whiskeys at the bar are what's available at Mr. Lester Steakhouse, the only 5-star restaurant between New Orleans and Houston, in the month of January on their whiskey special. Their whiskey special is this. Each pour is $15. If you want the flight, it's $30. So all three, the Forbidden Series from Bardstown, Bluestone Manor, and we have some people sampling in the room from those bottles. I have sampled those. You've heard my thoughts on all of them already here on the show. Let's start at the bar. Triple H, you just took a sip. Which one are you sampling, and what do you think?
This is Bardstown, right? Yeah.
Yep, it's out of
Bardstown.
Bardstown. It's called
Yep.
the Forbidden Series.
Forbidden Series. This is the single barrel. I'm enjoying it. I like it a lot. I'll be honest, it doesn't hold up to our first taste of the evening, but it's a different type of whiskey. And
It's
that's
very
why.
different,
Yeah,
yes.
it's very different. That's all. But for $30 for the flight, how many pours come with a flight?
3.
3.
So you
Okay.
get all 3 for $30.
Yeah, this is steel.
Yeah, that's it. It's a steal. Again, it doesn't hold up to our first choice, but this is for a flight. If I'm having a flight for $30 with my meal,
Well, here's the really
this is
interesting
gonna be
thing.
great.
Have y'all ever seen those bottles on the shelf?
No, I haven't.
And there's the point,
And
right?
that is it. Yeah.
This
and
is about getting to experience something you haven't had before.
yeah.
And that, it's unobtainium.
No, it is unobtainium. The bottles are super unique. I mean, I have hundreds of bottles, and I don't have one like this.
Is that a not so subtle brag, Ritter?
No, I'm just.
yeah,
I'm-
it is. Yeah, don't.
We have a
lie.
lawyer here. I just want
Don't-
to point out facts.
Yeah,
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I don't have this one.
I've seen it. It's ridiculous. He's telling the truth.
Thank you. Enough said. I rest.
A large wall.
Yeah. Oh no, he's got more than a large wall. Trust me. All right, Mr. Castro, what do you think of these particular offerings from Mr. Lester Steakhouse?
I'd say that they're quite tasty and can't beat it for the price.
So, which one did you sample? Did you sample the single barrel as well?
I had that the blue.
Oh, you had. Oh, so you had the Bluestone Manor.
I stuck with the blue.
Okay, so what'd you think of the Bluestone Manor?
Full body.
Okay, lower on the proof, so a little easier to drink.
Yeah. Just rich in flavor. Just tasty and easy on the palate.
I like tasty and easy, so we're all good, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was it's not something I've ever seen before. So
Again, unobtainium, and we're working on February. February might be the unobtainium of unobtainium at Mr. Lester Steakhouse. You just never know when that old blood temp is going to come in, and you're going to find a weekly whiskey that might just satisfy that. So we're going to do this. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We've got plenty more stories to discuss. A lot of them are fun. We're going to dive into the stories that you're not hearing anywhere else. We're going to solve the problems of the world. I guess we're on about our third weekly whiskey at a time, and continue to have more fun from the TSPL. This is Implicit Bias Radio.